Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Christchurch Orchard Park live stream again called Food for 15 because it's 15 minutes. It might even be 10 minutes if you're lucky tonight of food for thought on the biggest subjects, the stuff we need to be talking about. If we're not talking about it, we should be talking about it, and we're trying to talk about some of these things. As Christchurch Orchard Park tonight, we're working through the chain of accents. I think we've had Hertfordshire. We've had a Scouse last week. We have had someone from Hull a couple of weeks ago, and we've gone all the way to Northern Ireland.
Yes.
So thanks, Pete, for joining us.
Yeah, you've got to the climax tonight.
Yeah.
You've got the pinnacle of accent.
The pinnacle. It's quite a happy, jolly accent. So
that it can be very serious, Rob.
Yeah. Okay. Very, very serious.
Very serious.
So that was my awful Northern Irish accent.
But I'd like to hear some more of
it. What are you, Pete? Are you a priest? Are you a vicar? Are you a pastor? Or are you just Pete?
Well, I suppose to most people I'm just Pete. I guess I'm I'll be called pastor. I like that name. Yeah. That name, kind of that sort of a sheep looking after other sheep. I think I quite like the name pastor.
Pastor Pete, I like it. All of my mates love it. It's just pasta, and when they write to me, it text now. It's PASTA, pasta.
Pasta. Yeah.
I don't think anyone had heard the term before, but people don't know what to call me, priest, vicar. Anyway, we've gone straight to the top tonight. We've gone to a vicar, a pastor, to chat. We don't always have them on Food for 15, but we've got one tonight, and we're going to be talking about, if that's all right, Pete, COVID coping strategies, because I know that as part of your job, you're interacting with people all of the time, different people who come to church, some people don't come to church, and just like COVID's the big thing, it's impacting everything, isn't it? Yeah, so just like from your experience at the moment, how are people, and maybe people listening will relate to some of this, how are people coping at the moment?
Well, as I think with that, I think there's probably more than three groups, but I've noticed probably about three different responses in general. And so I would say most people they just seem a bit bored by COVID. So it has affected them, but really not anything more than just being a bit bored with it. And they just shrug their shoulders, they just keep going. To be honest, they seem mostly unaffected. It's inconvenienced them, but it hasn't really impacted them that much. But then there are many people who are quite down and struggling and looking for help. And then there are some people, I would say, as a third group, who really are struggling hugely. And no wonder, because things like bereavement and illness and it's just terrible. I mean, death itself is just an absolutely horrible thing anyway. It's a travesty. And so when people are dealing with that, whether it's COVID related or not, in the middle of COVID, then they're struggling a lot. So yeah, I think there's probably those three groups,
Is some of the stuff you just don't like. You've done more funerals than me, but it's a sad reality, not just because of COVID. I'm not like scaremongering.
No.
The reality is people die sadly all the time, and just like some of the normal stuff, like being able to go and see people and but then also like I can't believe how much I'm talking to people about mental health issues now than ever before. So yeah, you've got that massive range. What are people doing? So like it's interesting to think through, isn't it? What people are doing to cope with this. And the classic thing like is we're just switching on Netflix.
Yeah.
Social media usage has gone through the roof, but we're just getting box sets and stuff. But I don't know that actually really that is cutting the mustard for everyone. I mean, what are people doing to cope in your experience?
Well, even before I answer, I would say you look at those. I say you look at those three groups of people, and I would think the first group, they're just nowhere near where they should be. To be kind of not caring about COVID, just to shrug your shoulders and be a bit bored of it. I don't think you're seeing the world properly if you're there, to be honest. I think the second two groups, I think the ones who are down and the ones who are really struggling, I actually think they're seeing this more realistically. I think it's quite strange to be able to go through a time like this and not to be that bothered by it. These difficult times are supposed to get us asking questions. How do we cope and what should we respond? How should we respond to people who aren't asking questions? I find that quite strange, but I think you're right. I think in that first group again, most people, all they're doing is they're just trying to find things to fill in the gaps that COVID have made. So if COVID stopped them going to the gym, we need to find something for that. Or if COVID stopped them seeing family, they find something for that. So yeah, TV shows, nice food, more treats, I guess. Treat yourself, you deserve it. Basically, I reckon these people are more or less, they're sort of see themselves as self-sufficient. So they just find something else for themselves for life. But I think they're unrealistic. I just don't think somehow they're managing to ignore how serious the world situation is, never mind COVID. But so that second and third group of people, well, something I said to my church recently is something I think we need to be careful about, because many people who are struggling or really, really down, they're trying to cope with a kind of stiff upper lip, which in one way is a bit admirable. In one way, when you see people struggling but trying not to complain and trying to be thankful, there's something maybe admirable about that. So the comment I've heard a lot from people in the church and outside the church is, well, it could be worse, couldn't it? Other people have it worse and I've got lots of blessings. Now, that is a coping strategy. But again, I don't think it's the right one, Rob. I think the rottenness of things like anxiety, depression, the wrongness of illness and pandemics, the absolutely disgusting thing that is death. Christians have to say death is disgusting. All of these things, they should be leading people to going to the God of creation and asking him for help. That is actually what they should be doing. This God, he doesn't stay far away, he actually came to the earth. He went to the cross. He actually walked through the worst that life has to offer. So that's what people should be doing. But many people, they're not. But I don't think their coping strategies are the right ones.
Yeah, that's interesting. So in terms of what you believe about God, it probably moves us away from, because you hear this all the time, don't you? The only person you can rely on is yourself. And so that's where you get this British stiff upper lip.
Yeah.
I've got to do it. I've got to fight through this. But then even for the alpha males among us, the kind of stereotypical macho, I can deal with it. Well, you're looking around and you're going, hang on, people are not dealing with this. So we've got to admit we've got to be honest about it, haven't we? And what are you saying about that, kind of trying to just replace the normal stuff with something else? But actually, we've got to be honest, and then we've got to face up to the reality. And
it's not just COVID that does that, but COVID does a magnifying glass and makes everything worse. But you talk about funerals. Yeah, I've been at several funerals and another one to go to this week, and some funerals in the last couple of weeks, and just to see the devastation, when a loved person in a family goes and their grandchildren are just in bits and pieces, and it should sober you, and it should say, God, if you are out there, I want to know you. I want to know. I want some answers, and I want. And if you're more than far away, if you're actually come close, I want to know what that actually looks like. How does that change this situation that I'm walking through, this valley that I'm walking through? That's what it should do, I think, Rob, definitely.
So I wanna press you a bit on the God coming close, because people listening to this, I'm a spirit. Maybe I believe there's something out there, or I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What does it actually mean? So we'll come to that, but I just want to get a bit of insight, because I belong to a church, and I know for sure that church has made a difference during COVID. I'm absolutely, I just know it, because I look at the people in church and I look at the difference. But help me put my finger on why church has been such a blessing in this time.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and that's something I've changed a lot in my last, I would say, even 15 years in how I view church, I guess. But so here's why, and here's maybe a big answer to it. But see, the God who made us and who loves us, the God who, by Jesus' death on the cross, he offers to be our Father. Okay, people don't want that, other people don't want that, but he offers it. Well, that God knows exactly what we need, and the church family is actually a massive part of it. You see, people who aren't Christians, they often think the reason we go to church is just to gain points with God, or to make ourselves feel better than everybody else. And that is rubbish. You see, Jesus died and rose again so that people can have all their sins forgiven, their past sins, their present sins, their future sins. So they're given new life that will last forever. So Christians are the only people in the world who realize they don't need to impress God. They don't need to earn his favor, because God loves them so much already. So we don't go to church for that reason. The reason we go to church is because we need to be with God. We need to be with his family, the family we're going to spend eternity with. I absolutely love our church family. I've come to realize over the last 15 years how much I need it. I'm not a self-sufficient person. I need God's people. So just through COVID, it's just normal things, nothing, no rocket science, but meetings on Zoom, meetings in person, knocking people's doors and just having a quick chat, phone calls, home groups, and then the practical care, people making food for each other or offering to give people lifts when they're struggling to get to medical appointments. And like, these things matter. They're so important. And so I would say the church family, they go through lots of struggles, but they have this family around them. They have this father knitting the family together. And it really, you can see it as you say, you've seen it. You can see that these people really genuinely love each other. They're not doing it to earn favor. They're not doing it because it's good charitable deeds. They're doing it because they love one another. And that's the way God's made it.
I think it's interesting that you talk about this, like the new life and stuff, and you're part of this family. And it's so easy to think like Christians, these people that go to church because they have to, because they were brought up that way, because they enjoy a bit of punishment on a Sunday. But actually, it's been part of a family. And one of the things I've found in COVID is the consistency of that. Like, we're not perfect. I know the church mine's different to yours, but I know we're not perfect. There's things I wish we would do better. There's things I think we do well, but like the consistency of having that family throughout. I remember back in the first lockdown, and there's this loads of enthusiasm for like helping each other out, just in society generally. To be fair, some of that's continued, and a lot of people in society have been really loving things, but what's actually happened is some of that has faded. But the one thing I've noticed for people in the church family is it's been consistent, because that's what they are. They're part of a family. They belong to this people, and it's not a club on a Sunday. It's a church family.
Yeah,
smashing. We're running out of time, but I just want to land the plane because I want to press you on that point you made earlier about this God coming close, and clearly what you believe about Jesus makes a massive difference. But is Jesus, and is the faith that we have in Jesus, is that just another coping strategy alongside Netflix or like some of the stuff online that I can do to is it just another thing, or is it more than that?
I think it's a brilliant question. And one of the things I kept saying to my congregation again is that you've got to keep going to the cross. You've got to keep getting to the cross. The cross is central. But you see, the truth is that, so I'll answer two ways. Firstly, Jesus is the only coping strategy that will last up to death, like through death, after death. He's an amazing coping strategy. I preached on that one time, and then my dad actually said, like, he's not a crutch, actually, Peter. He's an anchor, and that's better. He's an anchor that keeps his people safe and steady forever. So he is, but here's the thing. If you're going to treat him just as a coping strategy that's a bit better than Netflix or whatever, you're going to end up just so disappointed. And that's because Jesus actually warned those who loved him. Before he went to the cross, he warned them, look, my followers are going to have extra troubles in this world. What do you think of that? So as well as the normal problems of anxiety about money and illness and mental health struggles and relationship breakdowns, the death of others, your own approaching death, as well as all of that, Christians are also going to be unfairly treated by people who don't believe, and maybe even in their own families. And in the world right now, that goes from people just laughing at them or ignoring them all the way to torture and executions for people whose only crime is to believe that Jesus is God. So why am I saying all that? Well, because if you just treat them as a coping strategy, you're going to crumble. But you see, it's so worth it to make your life actually all about Jesus. I mean, he is treasure that lasts when everything else in this world quickly goes away. On Sunday, I used this illustration. If you're driving down Beverly Road and at the traffic lights, there's a Ferrari in one lane and a Zafira in the other, you're not going to look at the Zafira for very long. You're going to be looking at this new Ferrari. But you know what? If you drive on down Beverly Road, go along Clough Road, there's a scrapyard there. Go in there. Ferraris, Zafiras, they're in the same place. They're rotting away. Now, walk through a cemetery. The best people in this world and the people that society despise, they're rotting away. It's a scrapyard. You see, without the proper coping strategy, without Jesus Christ, who's going to get you through death, without making your life all about him, you're going to end up with nothing. But Christians, they have the certainty of knowing that God is with them now. He's on their side now, and that Jesus has gone to prepare a place for them forever. That is some coping strategy, isn't it? But it's going to mean life's still difficult, but it's going to mean life is secure. I don't know if that's answered your question or not.
That's good, and it's secure in, the one thing I keep thinking, what about the next COVID? What about the next the next global thing, and I think, well, Jesus is better than a coping strategy. He's the reason, he's the security, he's the anchor, and that's smashing. We're gonna have to finish there, but a little shameless plug now, because a lot of people will hear us talk and you talk about Jesus in that way and go, well, that's lovely, but actually, can you really believe that? And obviously, I think there's loads we could. I mean, we're going to do that next week. So, fair shameless plug. Next week, is Christianity the world's greatest conspiracy? It's transformed the world. So, if it's not true, it is the world's greatest conspiracy. If it is, so we're going to do that next week. But tonight at 7:30, we've got something called Christianity Explored. So, you've gone on our website, Christchurch Orchard Park. You'll find out details. You can come on Zoom as anonymously as you like, but it's ideal to ask the questions: how can you Christians believe anything about this Jesus stuff in 2021? So we're going to be doing that tonight. In fact, I think both of us are going there now. To some of the questions people might have. So thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks, Pete, for joining us. And we'll see you all next time.